Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Yeah, it's been a good morning already. I still don't see any live viewers yet, but I have tried for the last 15 minutes to get this to work. We actually started on time, and I took off talking and everything, and then the stream just seemed to crash, and it said it was reconnecting. I do see someone there now, so I know we're working. Oh, I apologize. You can't test these things. You just start off and it works or it doesn't work. Well, it started off and I thought I was working, but yeah, the computer and this software had other ideas this morning. I see a bunch of you signing on there now. There's 28 of you already, and I'm sure more are on the way. Well, I started off by saying that I've had a super busy week and lots of interruptions. Just couldn't keep one thing going in one direction, you know. It just gets started, have to stop, get started, have to stop. But I think I've got a pretty good program lined up for you today. I've got a bunch of words of wisdom for you. And I hope you'll find that, enlightening, just things that, I've thought of as being a luthier over the years. So I hope you'll find it insightful, meaningful, and perhaps a little funny. So we'll see. As always, we're going to take questions at the end. I have a number of things to talk to you about. One of the first things is that in the last shop talk, I forgot to mention that there was a link to an article written by a local newspaper up in Columbia, Missouri. I believe it's called the Missourian. And a couple of young girls came down here. I think they were college students, like interns there at that newspaper or something. And they did a long interview with me. And they ended up writing an article, and I thought it turned out really well. So there is a link in the description of this video as well as last week's shop talk. Either one of them should take you to the article, so I would encourage you to take a look at that and read that and leave a comment for those folks there too, if you could. I got a couple of more gifts. Just show you this here real quick. Rick Ward sent me some thoughtful gifts. He sent me a pair of scalpels, and it came in separate packages. This came in one package. I opened this package first, and I found the scalpels with some blades and things. One of these is for Caleb. One of these is for me, according to Rick there. And then the next package was this. And it's a box of 300 Band-Aids. So we got our scalpels and we got our Band-Aids. I really got a chuckle out of that. I thought that was funny. But it's also really practical, very handy. You'd be surprised the number of Band-Aids I go through. I'm probably the Band-Aid king. I'm always cutting myself doing something because I'm always working with my hands and in the middle of something, and you're always having problems. This has nothing to do with anything, but I thought I would just show you a little project my wife did up in the kitchen. If you happen to see my popcorn video of the world's greatest popcorn, at that time we had black countertops. Well, things have changed, and here's just a photo. My wife upgraded the kitchen and had new countertops put on, and that new island countertop and new chairs, and she made some new drapes up there and just made it look real nice, and I thought I'd give her a little credit there and show you that. It's a decent little kitchen. The only thing that hasn't been upgraded, well, actually there's two things. It would be that double oven there that's kind of built in, and the dishwasher. That dishwasher is older than Hector. I have no idea how old that thing is. We bought the farm in '98, and it was in there then, and it was in very used condition then. So, and it still works great. She doesn't want me to change it. So I thought, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So that dishwasher is really old, and you know, and the amazing part is that that's on well water, you know, which has got a lot of mineral in it. You would think that that thing would have burned up the elements a long time ago. But hey, it's still working. Knock on wood. you know, I just jinxed that, and tomorrow that thing's going out, or maybe yet today. You just never know. Oh well, it lasted a long time. Hey, I'm also working on my Polaris Ranger right now. I'm putting in a new steering box. You know, there's a box down there, has a rack and pinion to steer the front wheels. That has gone out. This is the third one of those I've put in. I actually had the original, I put in a new one, and then I put in yet another new one. And one time in between there somewhere, I also repaired it, took it out and repaired it once. So, I mean, it's just giving me trouble like crazy. And my Polaris Ranger's getting really old, so I tell you all that just in case there's somebody out there that has a side-by-side that's gently used. I don't want one that's beat up, but if you've got one that's still up in real good shape and you know, kind of like new condition, and you decided you want to sell it, send me an email, rosastringworks@gmail.com. I would be willing to drive, you know, pretty good distance to make a decent deal on one of those, especially out toward Ohio, because we'll be going out there around Christmas for where my daughter lives there in Dayton. So if anybody out there has a side-by-side four-wheel drive vehicle that they're interested in selling, just let me know, rosastringworks@gmail.com. I put out a Firewood video just yesterday or day before, I can't remember now, and I was just wondering if anybody watched that. I think if you haven't watched it, you'll enjoy it, because you'll see all this equipment that I've built put to use, and I think it's a pretty good video. Caleb did an excellent job filming it, editing it, and producing it, so take a look at that if you get a chance, the Firewood video here on the farm. I've got the status of a couple guitars here to show you. First of all, I'll show you this old Martin first, and you know, if you saw it before, it was in multiple pieces and the top was just horrible. Look how nice that top looks now. It's just as flat as a pancake. I made a new oversized bridge for it, and it's only slightly oversized, by the way. I mean, like just a hair bigger all the way around, but that covers the scar, and it also makes it stronger so this top won't pull up again. This thing's got some decent sound for a little guitar with my new bracing I put in here and everything. You'll see a video on this down the road, and mainly I just wanted to show you that it really did turn out nice. I mean, yeah, I'm real proud of this restoration. This thing, seriously, I say this often, but this one really did have one foot in the dumpster. I'm not kidding you when it got here. I was even debating on whether I could salvage the top, whether I would have to make a new top. Now, that's what I also wanted to point out, is that Caleb did one of these almost at the exact same time. He was a couple of months ahead of me, but the video will be coming out fairly soon on the one Caleb did, and he built a whole new top for that one, because that top was unsalvageable. It was bad. It was busted every way you could bust it. So he made a new top. So don't get them confused. There'll be one coming out that Caleb did the top on, and then this one here will be coming out later. So, but this one, you are going to enjoy this restoration, I guarantee you, because it was kind of unique. Then I also wanted to show you the status of the last Hurrah guitar. I still have the name covered up because this is a surprise guitar. I really wish I could show you that, because it is really pretty the way that turned out on this one. And this one has a plain neck, which is what I wanted to show you today. But first, let me just give you a good close-up of the whole instrument. The finish is starting to look really nice on it. I'm not completely finished with the finish. I think I put the final coat on it, but I need to buff it out and polish it up and all that. Really got some pretty wood in it, and I book matched it the best I could, and I think you've already seen some of that in the videos. I think I put well, I can't remember if part 5's out yet, or it will be coming out maybe tonight. One of the two, or maybe part 6. I'm not really sure. I can't keep up with all these videos and things, but there'll be a new part coming out later today or tonight probably, and I can't remember which part it is, but you will definitely be seeing this if you haven't seen it already, how I book matched this and did all that. It's just really a pretty guitar. Listen to the tone on this sucker. I mean, it's just amazing. I don't, this little camera and this little microphone, I know it won't pick this up, but it's just amazing. It's just got the sound. It's going to be a nice guitar. Here's what the peg head looks like. Get that up there for you where you can see it. And then the back of the peg head. Now I'm going to, on camera, do something I've never done before. I'm going to do a little work on this thing. So I'm going to put the Be Good oil on this bare neck, and so you can see the transformations. You can see the color of it right now. So let's take some of this Be Good oil. This stuff is food grade type stuff, so you can eat it if you want. I don't usually swig it, but you could if you really wanted to. Anyway, I'll pour a little on here, and you can just see I've just poured it on there. And I'm going to wipe it down, and you can see how it starts to change the color, I think. I'm just going to put it on with my fingers. Yeah, that's making it look really nice already. A little bit of this stuff goes a very long way, as you can probably tell. I've got to get it worked into the joint there. I probably have to use a brush or something to get that, to make that happen. But just thought I'd work it in there and show you how pretty it turns. So you can see now that that neck that had no finish on it, once this polishes out and dries out, and we will wipe it completely down dry here in just a minute, because you want to wipe it all back off. I'm just trying to get it spread everywhere and all the little nooks and crannies here. Put it on my fingertips and get them right into the corner there if I can. I still don't quite have it into the very corner. But now you can see it, and the more you rub it and the more it works into the wood, the deeper it looks, the darker, it just starts to match really well. Beautiful. And the binding on there, again, this camera resolution is not good enough to really show you the detail. But then you also take this stuff. Now I'm probably not ready for this on the fingerboard yet, but you wipe it on the fingerboard too. More than likely I'll be leveling this fingerboard off some and working on that anyway, so this is kind of a moot point to put it on the fingerboard right now, but it doesn't hurt anything either. So it just makes everything look really nice when you get it all on there. Now I'll just take a dry rag and wipe it down. So that was just plain bare wood, and put this on there, and it really does make it look wonderful. I mean, you really can't appreciate it unless you're right here looking at it up close. It looks beautiful and slicker than snot on a doorknob. You'd be almost hard pressed to hold on to it. It's that slick. I'm seriously, like, you know, it's really slides right through your hands. It just wants to hit the ground. So it's good. It's good from that perspective for when you're playing. You know, you don't have any drag on your hand moving up and down the neck. That's what's really cool about that. That's why I don't like to put finish on a neck if I can avoid it. And this one here I know is going to a player, and I'm sure he will enjoy having that slick, fast neck. So anyway, the things I have to do on this yet, I have to make the custom bridge, I have to make the custom pickguard, and I have to make the custom truss rod cover. So I've got those three things to do, and I'm going to do that this week, buff this thing out, and hopefully get the strings on it this coming week. And I'm not sure I'll let you see it next week in the shop talk. I don't know whether I want to do that and kind of spoil the climax or not. Because obviously that's going to be in a video down the road. I don't know if you got to see the end there, but that turned out really pretty too. And you know, I picture framed this whole thing because that's, and if you remember, it's because these sides were not long enough. And lots of people said, well, just build a smaller instrument. Well, the customer doesn't want a smaller instrument, you know, so you can't just do that. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, that really makes the neck look beautiful. It's just beautiful. So that's how you do that with the Be Good oil. Now, by the way, I said Be Good oil, and that's what I used, but you could use plain old linseed oil and do just the same thing, and it really does work just about the same way. The difference is this has a little wax in it, and it might even be a hair slicker. The linseed oil, once you wipe it off, it's very slick too. So either way works really well. Okay, so I think that took us through those. I think we're down to my words of wisdom, so start getting your questions ready for me. Again, for those of you who joined late, just letting you know that we had all kinds of problems getting this thing started this morning. That's why it was late getting going. It wasn't because I wasn't here on time. In fact, I was here at about 6:25. I started getting ready for the shop talk this morning. I have my words of wisdom here. This is coming from the perspective of a long-time acoustic instrument luthier. These words came to me at 3 a.m. I laugh because it's all true. It came to me at 3 a.m. Either Wednesday morning or Tuesday morning. I think it was Wednesday morning. So here we go. First of all, and the first thing you should absolutely know and believe is that musicians are the pickiest people in the world, bar none, and you need to know that and you need to believe that before you become a luthier. You'll have two kinds of customers. You'll have musician customers who are, you know, real players, and you'll have the walk-in customers that, hey, this was my great-grandpa's fiddle, I just want it fixed up so I can hang it on the wall. You'll have those kinds of customers. That's important later as I read more of this, so you kind of understand. You have two kinds of customers, the real musicians and then pretty much everybody else. Okay, hear me when I tell you this. Sound. Now this is from the acoustic instrument luthier perspective, not an electric luthier, okay? Sound is job number one. Nothing is more important than sound. Sound is job number one. You've got to get it to sound right. It's acoustic. That's what it means, is sound. But strength is job number two, and it's more important than job number one, even though job number one is the most important of all. And you might think, yeah, that's just double talk. No, it's not. Because it doesn't matter how good it sounds if it's not strong enough to stand up to the daily stress and use and daily abuse and then still talking about strength, this doesn't give you the freedom to glue in paneling, toothpicks, baby bed railing, and other miscellaneous pieces of wood that I've found in instruments over the last 40 years. As I've said many times before, resist the urge to just glue miscellaneous pieces of wood up inside your instrument. They probably are not going to help anything anyway. So if you get that urge again, call your best friend, call your shrink, call me. You know, just somebody that needs to talk you out of that. Okay, so sound is job number one, strength is job number two. Strength is more important than job number one, even though job number one is the most important of all. Job number three takes the longest and is equally as important as job number one, and that is looks. If it doesn't look good, you know, you're going to hear about it, you know. It has to look good too. So the looks is very important, even though everybody always says, I don't care what it looks like, I just want it to sound good. Yeah, right. Especially if you're building them from scratch, you've got to have the looks there too. So, you know, it's just a funny way of saying that those three things are all very super important. You know, and it's in the looks especially, at least in terms of being judged, because you will be judged on your looks, you know. Even though you're going to be judged on your sound, obviously, but your looks you're going to be judged on that too. Okay, now fully considering jobs 1 through 3, don't be intimidated, because it's still just a piece of wood, and it can be repaired, it can be reshaped, it can be re-glued, and it can be restored no matter how bad it is. I give you chocolate. I rest my case. If you haven't seen the video on chocolate, look that up. RSW chocolate. Just search on that and you'll find it. Okay, this is really important to me, I think. I don't know why this one's so important to me, but it is. Here are words that you never hear. Now, remember, there's two different kinds of customers. You never hear these words from the musician customers, the ones that are the real players. You never hear this. I guarantee you never hear it. It's perfect. I don't want you to change a thing. You never hear that. Never. I mean, like, never. There's always that much exception. But otherwise, you just never hear it. Here's what you actually hear. Now, this is from the musician customer, okay? Remember that. I love it. You did an excellent job. But am I hearing a little buzz right here? Or it's just, God, it's great. You did a wonderful job. But you know, this kind of feels a little higher right here. That's what you always hear from a musician customer. Know that before you become a luthier. It just is the way it is. Now, from the other customers, you get just as many of the other customers also, the ones that just want to hang them on the wall or show them off to the family or hand them down to someone in the family. They will tell you, wow, that's the best work I've ever seen. You know, it's just great, it's perfect, it's awesome, you know, all that. You will get that from those folks, but you never get that from the musician, the real picker. You just never do. You might from the very beginner picker, the one that's just starting out, but the seasoned picker, you'll never get that. Okay. Don't believe it for 1 second when they say, I don't care how long it takes. Yeah, whatever. If you believe that, I got some ground down in the Okeechobee I want to sell you. Okay, throw away your ruler and your tape measure and get yourself a set of calipers. Everything is measured in thousands of inches or in hundreds of millimeters, and that is if you want to amount to anything. You know, just start measuring like that rather than with a, you know, in machining, let me kind of put this in perspective for you. In machining, meaning like, you know, metal working on metal lathes and milling machines, etc., and that type of machining, these are called estimators. They're not even accurate enough for that. And this measures in thousands of inches. These are called estimators. Micrometers are what give them their accurate measurements. These are just approximate. So what would you think a ruler would be? A ruler is kind of like, you know, I don't know, a ruler is kind of like using a big pipe wrench to fix a wristwatch. You need to be much more refined, you know, and you need to have this to do a really good job on your instruments and things. Or, you know, that other wedge tool I use, which measures in thousandths also, which goes under the strings and measures in up to 150 thousandths of an inch. So anything that measures in thousandths, you're in the right ballpark. Even if this is just an estimator. And that's what they call it. They call these estimators. Okay, I think that's funny because, you know, when you get down to that tiny of a measurement where you're really measuring, you know, half the thickness of a hair or less with these things, yeah, and still just estimating. Okay, here's another word of wisdom. There is always a budget, no matter what they tell you. And don't take advantage of their openness to share that with you. I mean, if you're going to be a luthier, have some ethics, you know. Try to be the good guy, you know. I seriously, and I hope everybody believes this, I seriously don't ever try to scam anybody or you know, charge extra just cause I can. And many times I could, you know. But I try to make the job, the instrument, the whole thing worth the money that I'm charging. You know what I mean? In other words, if it's a Kmart guitar, I don't think I'm going to charge them $1,000 to fix it. If I take on the job, I'm going to try to make it, you know, worth the money for them, you know, and try to charge them accordingly, you know. And if I can't do that, well, then I tell them up front at least, and then they can make their decision if it's worth it to them. And sometimes it's still worth it to them, you know, and that's no problem. I got no problem with that at all. Like if it's a sympathetic, you know, if it's one of those sentimental jobs where the customer says, I know this thing isn't worth this kind of money, but I just want you to fix it regardless, that's a different story. But don't take advantage of the fact that they share with you, hey, I don't really have a budget on this. You should still try to do it within a reasonable budget, you know. The next point, your very, very best work will be shared with one or two people, maybe 3 or 4. Your worst work will be shared with everybody they talk to, everybody they meet. It'll be shared with the world in today's environment with the, you know, with the ability to just put things out on social networks instantly. Trust me, your worst work will be known about very, very, very quickly. Your best work, it's barely ever talked about. And that's just the sad truth. That's just the way it is. Now, here's my best advice to those of you who want to become a luthier. And only you can know this about you. Okay? Just seriously, don't become a luthier if you're lazy, if you can't get out of bed, if you procrastinate, if you've got low personal hygiene standards. I just threw that one in to be silly, but you will only frustrate those around you, and you will be miserable at this job. You just will be miserable. Seriously, if you don't have a lot of go get 'em in your mental framework, if you don't have the drive, seriously, don't take this on. You will just frustrate yourself and everybody around you. And lastly, and here I'm done, and then so get your questions ready. When you get right down to it, as a luthier, your reputation is all you have. There's nothing else. Word of mouth, good word of mouth spreads, and like anytime somebody says, "Hey, I wish I knew somebody that could fix this," if you've got a good reputation, they're going to jump in and say, "Hey, so and so can fix this for you." So that kind of thing. But if you've got a bad reputation, they'll for sure tell people about that too, and they'll say, "Hey, look, do not take this to so and so." So I hope you found that good, enlightening, hopefully a little funny too. And we're ready for questions, and we got a late start, so it's only 10 till, but we'll probably go to about a quarter after today since we got a late start. Let's see here. The first one, what is the average weight of a properly built mandolin? Well, Rick, I'd tell you if I knew. At one time I did know, and I honestly don't. I have measured the weight of the tops and the weight of the backs individually, but I don't know if I've measured the weight of the whole instrument. So, Rick, I can't answer that. I'll try to answer that in the next shop talk if I can remember to do it. That's my biggest issue, is just remembering. But I'll try to do that and answer that in the next shop talk. And maybe I'll measure the weight of several of my mandolins. I only have a few around, so I'll see if I can find a couple of them and measure that. It is a good question, really. If I were to make my own violin bridge, what's the best wood? Well, Rick, on that one, different Rick. We had Rick Carver and Rick Hartley. Rick Hartley is asking that question about the violin bridge. Quarter sawn maple, it would be your answer, and it depends on the way that it's quarter sawn. And you want the quarter sawing to be across it this way. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you definitely want it to go across the bridge this way. In other words, the top of the bridge is here. You want the quarter sawing grain lines to go through it this way. And it would be hard maple. Red maple is a good choice, but any good hard maple. If you can't get that for some reason, and of course you probably have more trouble finding the next one I'm going to mention, would be sycamore, but also cut the same way. Either one of those would make a good bridge. How are my hands doing? Jesse's asking. Jesse, the truth of that is, Jesse I met down there in Mountain View, real good picker, good singer, and really good luthier. He built really nice guitars. He's asking about my hands. My hands are terrible. I got to be honest. I'd like to sugarcoat it and try to be optimistic, but they've run their course, and they really have, and they're not getting better. And while we're on that, a couple of folks have mentioned, "Oh, you're just stubborn. You won't try this or you won't try that." We made suggestions. I've tried almost everything everybody suggested. I have currently been using the CDB oil. It's a butter type pasty stuff, and really slicky, slimy, kind of gross almost. And I've been putting that on at night, and I've used most of the tub of that and the CDB stuff, and it hasn't honestly done a thing that I can tell. I honestly can't feel any relief from it. Everybody else swears by it, but I truly haven't felt anything. I haven't felt one thing that's helped at all. The only thing that helps, and it definitely helps, is the meloxicam. If it wasn't for the meloxicam, I'm almost sure I'd be in a wheelchair. And I know that sounds real dramatic and it sounds kind of stupid, and especially when you see me go out and cut firewood. Seriously, when I'm off the meloxicam for like 3 days, 4 days, I just get tears in my eyes. I can't even move. I mean, it's horrible. And if I got all the way off of it, where like all the effects have wore off, I don't think I could walk. I mean, it's that bad. It really is horrible. I didn't understand. My dad had this, and he quit doing anything at around age 55 or 58, somewhere in there. He just quit, and he lived to be in his 70s, and he didn't do anything. And he was active like me, and which it just seemed crazy that he just gave up on life, But now I kind of see why, And if I was off the meloxicam, I probably would too. I probably would just be sitting in a chair. Probably wouldn't do anything. So I'm very thankful I found that. And I found that just kind of by accident. So truly, it's bad. It really is. And I don't mean to harp on it, but it really is bad. Why haven't you made a cutout under the right elbow on the last hurrah guitar? The little armrest thing. It just, to be perfectly truthful, I gave someone a very good deal on this, and that's a lot of extra work, and the good deal didn't include it. So if you really want the true answer, that's the true answer. Bridge pins, industry standard shape, need to replace them on a couple of guitars. Well, Jeff, I honestly have never really contemplated that. And I'm just being honest with you. I'd tell you if I knew, but no, I don't know if there is such a thing. I'll tell you what I use, and it seems to work really good. Well, for me, on the whole, I use the little violin peg reamer, and I just use the very tip of it. The peg reamer is pretty long. It's a pretty long reamer. And I just use the very tip of it and just stick that down in the hole. And as soon as I can feel the tip coming through, then that's as far as I take it. And that seems to fit most pegs. If that helps you at all, that's the best I got, because I really don't know if there is a quote-unquote industry standard. I do know there's a lot of different sizes and shapes to them, though. I've run into that a lot. So mostly it's just, does your peg fit your hole? That's really what it boils down to. So I don't know if that helps you or not. I hope it does. It's my understanding that most factory guitars have pre-shaped bracing. How do you feel about them versus shaping them after gluing like you do? Yeah, well, when you're mass producing something, you're always going to do it that way. No question. And I don't mean to knock mass-produced instruments, because there's a lot of them that sound just flat awesome, It's kind of more like a combination of things. It's not just one thing, Like on the bracing as an example, you might produce 100 guitars with this standard bracing, and maybe 75 of them sound real good, maybe 10 of them sound exceptional, and the other ones not so great, I mean, that may be the way it works. I don't know what the numbers really would be, but that's kind of the way it is when you do mass production and you make things like that. Whereas if you do it individually like I'm doing, you can tap on it and listen to it, and you kind of keep working it until you kind of get it where you want it to be. And that's the difference. I hate to sound too arrogant here and say that guarantees it's going to sound good, but it kind of does if you know what you're doing, It almost guarantees you're going to have a good sounding instrument if you do it the way I do it. I don't want it to sound like I'm some kind of super, luthier or something, because I'm not. I'm just telling you the way I see it, and that's kind of the way I see it. So that's the difference to me. Let's see. I hope I didn't let that scroll too far. Okay, I think. Okay, yeah. I know that you said you were going to build instruments for yourself. Is that going to happen? Will we see the process of it? Yes, you will see the process of it. I would pronounce your name, but there's not a chance on this earth I'd even get close. It's also a really long name. I'm not making fun of you, you understand, sir. I just, you know, I can't pronounce things like names like that, so I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, you will see the process. I will be building a couple of instruments, and I even thought about just getting your input here. I'm going to build 2 more instruments for myself, or at least I'm hoping to. Honestly, I'm not sure I can. I kind of think I may have waited too long on the mandolin. I wanted to build myself a really super high-end mandolin. I mean, like one that will just make everybody's mouth water. So it's either that or the dobro. And I wanted to build a dobro too. And I really want to build a really nice dobro too. I mean, a really nice one. So even though I can't play one at all, I can't even play 2 notes on a dobro. So I do want to build both of those. If you want to throw it in the comments, which would you prefer to see? And especially if you throw it on the comments later after this video posts, that would be good. Because I'll read them then. Now it's hard to read them. So thank you for asking that. But yeah, I do plan to build 2 more instruments. That's what I'm hoping to be able to get through. The dobro, I'm pretty sure I could get through that because it doesn't involve the carving. The mandolin, man, I'm seriously wondering if I can do the carving on the mandolin. By the way, in case people are judging me here on the being able to go out and do firewood still, but why can't I do this? It, for some reason, uses different things in your hands. I can hold on to the chainsaw and I can do that, and that doesn't really hurt me too much. But man, some of the simplest things I do on instruments, like trying to tune it, oh my gosh, does that hurt. I mean, it's completely different. I guess it's different muscles, different way you're using your hands. But I'm seriously telling you, just tuning an instrument now is super painful now. So there you go. I've used DMSO. Yes, I tried that too, and I didn't get a thing out of it. I used a whole. I think that came in a tub, if I remember right. I've used so many things I can't keep them all straight in my head, but I did use DMSO also, and that did not help me. I tried it. You know, I gave it a full, long shot. Bruce Robinson, my buddy from down in Mississippi, did you mention the article in the magazine? Yes, I did, Bruce. And there, just one more time, there is a link in the description of this video, and there's a link in the description of the previous Shop Talk both. So either one of those, you can click on that link, and it'll take you to the article that was written about us here in the shop. And it mentions my good buddy Bruce there, because he said a few nice things. And I appreciate that. Richard Ingram, CDB oil under the tongue. The kind made for that CDB rubes don't work near as well. Yeah, well, everybody always says that about everything I mention. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, but every single thing, like if I talk about the DMSO, well, you didn't use the right DMSO, you didn't use the right CDB, and you didn't use the right whatever that product is that comes in that tube over the counter that used to be prescription. I took 3 or 4 tubes of that already and used all of that, and it didn't help either. Everybody swore by that. You know, honestly, guys, I've tried everything. Seriously, you would not believe the things I've tried. And I'm done trying, really. I just kind of resigned to the fact that it's kind of is what it is. And like I said, I went to a surgeon, and the surgeon kind of goes, yeah, I think we're just a little past where we could help you. So if the surgeon who buys his Porsches by doing surgery doesn't want to help you, then I think you're past helping. Would you also consider building a kit guitar with pre-cut, pre-shaped parts from StewMac? Only if I had a commission for it, but honestly, I don't think I'm going to take any more commissions. That's the thing. Also, by the way, it's just time to quit and time to enjoy life. That's honestly the truth of it, in addition to the hands. This is what's pushed me to the edge, I will admit, but it's also just time. I just need to slow down and start to relax a little bit and enjoy my farm and go out and hunt and, and fish and, just enjoy some things. Because I've never been that guy. My wife says, you never, ever were a kid. And it's the truth. I really never was. My dad made me work from the time I was well, for sure from the 4th grade on, and really even before that, because I always had lots of chores on the place that we lived. I was feeding dogs, horses, everything, even from the time I could really carry a bucket, and I've never been a kid. That's the truth. It really is true. I've worked my whole life. Why doesn't the shop talk start when you log in and wait for it? Well, as I mentioned this morning, the shop talk was really a problem getting it going. I started it on time, and I actually had it going, and then it just went in the toilet, and I had to restart my computer twice. The program would not load. It just went on and on and on, and finally we got it going. So I hope it's working well now. If you're wondering why it doesn't start when you log in and wait for it, I don't know. Honestly, I think that could be a combination of the problem this morning. I don't know. I can't answer it for sure. Whatever happened to the Scottish 12-string? It's in the case in my house right now. That's where that is. And as far as I know, that's where it's going to stay, because I'm not going to mention what I found out about that particular fellow, but it wasn't good. And I don't think he might come back and claim it. You never know. And if he pays for it, I guess I'll send it to him. But otherwise, it's going to stay where it is. Full spectrum CDB overbroad for pain, in my opinion. Well, I don't know if it was full spectrum or what, but it's CDB oil, and it says it's specifically for my pain. It says it on the thing. So I don't know, and it didn't do anything for me, so I'm over it. Glad the meloxicam is helping. Yeah, honestly, if it were not for meloxicam, I'd have been off of YouTube a long time ago. Trust me, I'm not making that up. Definitely get a second opinion. I've had 4 or 5 second opinions at this point. Jerry only eats meat. Yeah, that's a black and white fact. I am a carnivore. I'm the closest thing to a carnivore that God ever created on this earth. And that's the truth. It's easier to tell you what I eat than what I don't eat. I eat meat, of course, breads, cereals, and starches. Rice, corn, potatoes, and that's it. Nuts. I do eat nuts. Cereal grains, things like that. For the most part, if it tastes like cardboard, I eat it. My standing joke is if I can taste it, I don't like it. And that's pretty much the truth. I have incredibly sensitive taste buds. I was born with it. And my mother told me when I was a baby, and when they start feeding people solid food, I spit every single thing they put in my mouth out except potatoes. That was the only thing they could get me to eat. So all they fed me for a long time was milk and potatoes. And everything else I spit out. And it isn't like a conscious decision, like I'm just a picky person. It seriously is something to do with the tongue. If you look at it really close, and this is true on all tasters, we have way more taste buds than the regular average standard person. And you can see it in the mirror when you look, because there's a bazillion of them compared to the way they're scattered out. There's I forget what they told me. I forget the specific numbers, but it's like 4 times as many taste buds or something in that order. Might even be many more than that. I can't remember now, but It's something like that. And so everything tastes super, super strong to us. And especially chlorophyll. Oh my gosh, if you guys could taste chlorophyll, you'd never eat a green thing in your whole life. Not one thing. I guarantee you, you wouldn't do it. My grandson has it, and so he's exactly like me. None of the other kids got it, and I'm thankful of that. Do you think there's any doesn't have any questions by it, but it looks like a question. Do you think there's any negative about installing a over thick bridge plate to an acoustic guitar, 5mm bridge plate on a, well, 5mm is pretty thick. That'd be, 5 times 40, what is that? 200 thousandths, so that's almost a 1/4 inch. Yeah, no, that's too thick, I think. I would say the thickest I would like to see one would be 125 thousandths, which would be about 3mm roughly. I don't think I'd go more than about 3mm on a bridge plate. That's just an approximate. Slotted bridge pins versus round bridge pins with a slot in the bridge. Your opinion? Well, I'd say either one works okay, Peter, and I guess I would lean toward the slot being in the pin, mostly because of the fact that the slot in the bridge could potentially cause more damage to your bridge and potentially cause more cracking and wear, etc. I don't have any way to prove that. It's more like a common sense type thing. So I don't put the slot in the bridge for the most part. I'm not saying I don't sometimes take a file and give it a little bit of room, but I don't put a deep slot in it. So I don't have a problem with making a little room there, maybe with a little tiny round file or something. But for the most part, I put the slot in the pin. So that's a good question. Hadn't really thought a lot into that or deep into that, but that's the way I see it. It would make more sense to put it in the pin. Yeah, Richard there is encouraging me to get out to the outdoors. You're right, Richard. I need to. I really, truly haven't enjoyed. I don't know how to say it. I don't want to sound like I'm whining, or like I need somebody to feel sorry for me. I've enjoyed my life, but I haven't done the things that most people do. Go on big vacations and spend lots of leisure time. Yeah, that's never been me. Can you sand down bridge pins if they are too large? Of course you can. Yes, you certainly have no problem with that. Sanding is probably the easiest way for most people to do it, but what I do, and I'll just show you, but you probably think this is dumb. I take, and I'm going to pretend like this is a bridge pin. I take a really sharp X-Acto knife. I'm going to turn it upside down so I don't scratch my pin too much. But I just take it and I hold the pin like this, and I rotate the pin in my hand like this as I'm scraping it. And you can scrape it really fast. You'll be surprised. And you can also see where you scrape it. And you can make it very even and very round by scraping it. And it'll come off faster than it will by sanding. Scraping is super important when you learn how to do this kind of work. And all kinds of scrapers. This can be a scraper. I'm not making it up. Scrapers really are truly where it's at when it comes to this kind of work. So I'm always using some kind of a scraper all the time. It removes wood fast and it removes it very smooth, and then you can just lightly touch it up with sandpaper after that if you need it. This Rick Hartley is saying, thank you, Jerry. Got some sycamore boards drying now. Thanks, my friend. You've been awesome on your repair tips. Oh, well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. I try. You know, again, I don't like to let things, I don't want anybody thinking I've got some kind of big head or something. I just tell you what I do, you know, and I don't say it's the only way to do anything, because you can do everything a million different ways. And sometimes a different way is better, you know. I just showing you what I do. Just checking here, looks like we got a few more. Why do some builders build radiuses in their top and back, but you don't seem to? Well, I'm building what I refer to as the standard flat top guitar, and my preference is that for sound. When you force an arch into the top of a guitar that would ordinarily be flat, you're stiffening it an awful lot. It makes it much stronger. There's no question about that. But because it's much stronger and it's much stiffer, then you're kind of violating job number one. You know, sound. Sound is the most important. When you leave it flat, it vibrates really, really a lot. And it has a deeper vibration, a deeper tone. When you arch that top a little bit. Now, I'm not talking about, there's carved arch tops. That's different than a flat top that's been forced into a slight radius. That's different. There's two different things altogether, and really we're talking three different things. You got a flat top, you got a flat top that's been forced to an arch, and then you've got a carved arch top. Carved arch tops are totally different on the totally different sound. Almost everything about them is different. But the flat top that I build is a flat top guitar. That's the way they're built. And I prefer the sound of those. That's why I build them that way. I hope that makes sense to you. Where did I get my design for my log splitter? Right up here. Can I digress and tell you a funny story about this log splitter? When I decided to build it, I watched a lot of videos and things of people that had built them, and well, the first way I built it, by the way, and I want to say this in case somebody sees this, is that I built it with it sticking straight out in front of the Bobcat instead of now you see that it's horizontal in front of the Bobcat. Well, out in front, I thought that would be far better because you could reach in and deeper into piles of wood and stuff. It's not. First of all, when you're driving, it bounces like this. And second of all, you can't really see it way out there. It's so far out there, you can't really see the detail. When you put it right here horizontal, you look right down and you can see it perfectly clear. So it's far better designed that way. But the funny story about that is, when I wanted to build it, I went looking for a piece of I-beam steel, and so I went to all the different welding shops in a 50-mile radius, and I went to all of them, and it took me all day long. I bet you I drove 200 miles, just maybe way more than that. I don't know. I drove a long ways that day. All day long I was driving, and I'd stop at every welding shop, every iron place, and there was a couple places kind of got close to what I was looking for, but couldn't find anything. Gave up, decided to go home, pulled into my county road, and on my county road, as you're coming in here, there's a gravel quarry. And I thought, they got a lot of scrap stuff sitting around. I'm just going to stop in and ask them. So I stopped in at the office there and asked him, and the guy goes, well, I think we do have a piece of that. We went out in the weeds there, and he goes, would this work? It was 6 foot long. It was exactly what I wanted. It was exactly. I drove all day long, and here I found it within a mile of my house on the road I live on. And if you know anything about my road that I live on, it's like my driveway, because it's 3 miles from the main road to my farm, and there's nothing else. No other roads turn off of it. So it's kind of like my driveway. So I basically found that piece of steel on my driveway after spending all day long driving probably 200 or 300 miles looking for it. I just thought that was kind of ironic, but that's kind of the way my luck goes. Anyway, there you go. There's a lot more questions piling in here, and they're rolling up really fast, and we're running out of time, so maybe I ought to try to get one or two more. Let's see here. So the design, Paul, was just purely in my head, by the way, to answer your question, and I didn't have any plans or anything. I just started ordering parts and welding. That's the truth of it. I put a pretty big cylinder on it, and my new Bobcat with the high flow, boy, you talking about being able to break stuff, it just will break stuff. I mean, like when you put a log in there, it's going to bust it. I don't care how big it is, how knotty it is, it's going through it. Your thoughts on metal bridge pins? I don't like them at all. I don't like metal in the bridge area at all. I don't like those plate mates things that go underneath the plate. To me, all of it with metal, and I'm just, this is me, you know, it's my opinion. I have a right to it. My opinion is if you're really good at listening to the sounds, and I think I am, they all sound way too harsh. Any kind of metal back there just makes it sound harsh. Pins, the pins are the least effective. I mean, the pins aren't going to change it that much, but that bridge plate really does. When you put that plate mate up underneath there, when you put a metal saddle in there, it's way too harsh. The metal pins, if I had to go with one of those three choices, I'd go with the metal pins, because the metal pins do the least damage. But in my opinion, they just make things too harsh. Since you've retiring from building instruments, are you only going to concentrate on fixing them from now on? Well, for right now, we're still taking them if you bring them through the door for right now. But somewhere around December, I'm going to actually even slow that down to the point where I'm going to be highly selective on anything I take. And I don't plan to quit doing this anytime soon. I may have to, but I don't plan to quit. I'll keep doing it as long as I can. I'll keep producing videos, etc., and so forth. So I don't plan to go anywhere. And I hope you all will stay with me. We got over 200 viewers right now, which is great. So thanks for the question, but I do plan to keep doing it. But I am going to be super highly selective on what I take about December time frame, and the reason is because I've already given Caleb notice that in December he's going to have to find other work. I'm not firing him, you understand. I'm not exactly firing him. It's more like I'm just slowing everything down, and the truth of the matter is I don't have room for him. And many people have suggested, why don't you let him work a deal with you, take over the business? Well, the truth of the matter is I don't want to do that. That's the first thing. And the second thing is he really wants to open a shop up in the Kansas City area. That's where he's from. We're not related, by the way. I just hired him off of a video resume that he sent me. So anyway, he's done very well. I got no complaints with Caleb. I just want to be very perfectly clear about that. He's done super well. And in fact, if I'd have picked out of 10,000 people, he'd been the guy. If I knew everything I needed to know about him, he'd still be the guy I would have picked. So there you go. Can you share your thoughts on carbon fiber rods to reinforce the neck? Well, the truth of it is haven't used that very much. I have used it a little bit, but I don't know that much about the carbon fiber. I kind of prefer to be able to adjust it. And the carbon fiber is basically like the non-adjustable truss rods that Martin used to use. I think you run into the same issues with both of them. I don't think neither one of those things are perfect. I think they got their place, but it wouldn't be my first choice if I had a choice. I would prefer to put one in that's adjustable. And I would outlaw the two-way adjustable truss rod. If it were up to me, you wouldn't be allowed to buy one of those. The reason I say that, I'm seriously not exaggerating when I say 8 out of 10 instruments that come in here with a two-way adjustable truss rod are adjusted backwards. I'm not kidding. I don't know why that is, but it's the truth. And trust me, if there's one thing I absolutely 100% know for sure, it's which way to tighten the nut. Like, I never get confused about that. I know which way to tighten a nut. I've done that my whole life. It's like breathing to me. I couldn't screw that up if I tried. If I stood on my head and looked in a mirror, I'd still get it right. That's one thing I can absolutely guarantee you I'm an expert at, is which way to tighten a nut. And that's why I know that 80% of these two-way truss rods come in and they're tightened backwards. It's terrible. Since you returned, I'm try to take one or two more here, because we did get a pretty late start. Can you share your thoughts? Oh, no, sorry, I read that one. That was Bill Dobbs, by the way. Thank you, Bill. Rick Carver, have you heard the say mandolin fretboard should be flat? Is that for the... Oh, you've heard me say that the mandolin fretboard should be flat. Well, I would like to clarify that. I prefer the flat ones. There's lots of people that prefer the radius fretboard. I prefer the flat ones, and they're flat all the way, yes. The radius are radius all the way. I don't find any benefit to a radius fingerboard for me, personally. To me, I find them to be awkward as heck. But that's just what you get used to. It's what you like. Everybody's different on that. That's just like I prefer maybe a white car and you prefer a red one. You know, I mean, it's just a preference. That's all that is, as far as I'm concerned. Is there anything else that's good top wood other than spruce and cedar? Well, I have used three things, and I've had incredibly good luck with all three. One is spruce, of course. The other one is western cedar, and the other one is redwood. And any one of those three makes a great top. And I mean like a great top, as long as you get quarter sawn wood and you do the appropriate things. Now, what I will tell you is that redwood especially is so much softer. It makes it's like carving butter, man. I mean, I love to carve redwood. It's just so easy to carve. It's like cream, man. You slide the finger plane and it just curls it off. It's just so nice to carve redwood. So if you were going to build say a archtop mandolin, I would encourage you highly to build it out of redwood because it builds a great mandolin. Very loud. The loudest mandolin I ever built was built with a redwood top. I'm seriously telling you, it's killer. The only thing you might want to do is make it just a teeny bit thicker because it's a softer wood than spruce is, but only a little bit thicker. Like maybe, I don't know, 20 thousandths thicker, something like that. So, but redwood's just awesome. It really is. It's super good and highly underrated. Hardly anybody uses it, and it's fairly easy to come by in quarter sawn. You can typically find redwood quarter sawn at a hardware store. In fact, that's where I found the one piece that I used that I said was the loudest mandolin I ever built. I paid $1.50 for that board. It was the stacked board on a whole bunch of 2x4s. It wasn't even a board that was for sale. I just bought it and made a mandolin out of it, and it was a killer mandolin. Still is one of my best mandolins. It really is. Matter of fact, when I play it, people say, golly, you should be playing that one all the time. And it is good. It was the second mandolin I ever built, and it is killer mandolin. It truly is. Not going to sell it. It's a family heirloom, more or less. And but anyway. So those are the three that I have experience with. They're very, very, very good. I'm going to cut it off right there. 229 viewers at the moment. That's kind of a new recent record. I think we got over 300 when we were doing these before my internet crashed on me and we had to quit doing them for a couple of months there. But anyway, I really do appreciate you all joining in. Once again, I apologize for getting a late start today. It was not my fault. Trust me, I was there on time, and things just said, nope, I'm not going to work right now. But we got it working, and it's all been fixed, and I hope it went well today. I assume it did because I didn't see anybody saying it wasn't working. So Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next Friday morning, 8 o'clock sharp my time.